Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we have some stunning new developments in the Jussie Smollett case. This disgraced TV actor was getting lots of buzz the last 3 weeks for supposedly being attacked by some Trump supporters with MAGA hats on. But as it turns out, Jussie has now turned himself in to the police on a felony charge of filing a false police report over this incident. And Jussie could even be charged with disturbing the peace because, he was trying to start a race war, basically. Pitting blacks against whites based on a fake attack you staged is pretty much the worst thing I could think of someone doing. It's also just so 2019, isn't it? Jussie Smollett has gone from a poor, helpless victim and a media darling to now being a lying, cheating race hustler who should be detested by all. Frankly, Jussie deserves whatever he has coming to him now. Not only did he lie and manipulate the media for race-baiting purposes, he also did it all to get money and attention. Boo. Here's an article from the failing New York Times with more information. It's called Jussie Smollett Upset Over Salary, Staged Assault, Police Say. Sounds interesting. Let's go ahead and check it out. Jussie Smollett, upset by his salary and seeking publicity, staged a fake assault on himself a week after writing himself a threatening letter. The Chicago police said Thursday after the Empire actor surrendered to face a charge of filing a false police report. Eddie T. Johnson, the visibly angry Chicago police superintendent, said Mr. Smollett had taken advantage of the pain and anger of racism, draining resources that could have been used to investigate other crimes for which people were actually suffering. I just wish that the families of gun violence in the city got this much attention, he said at a news conference in Chicago. The superintendent seemed particularly upset by the fact that Mr. Smollett, he said, had arranged a fake assault that featured a noose hung around his neck. The police say the staged assault was carried out by two brothers whom the actor had paid $3,500. Well, at least this is the first time an American has scammed Nigerians, I guess. But you'll never believe how Jussie paid those poor fools. Jussie Smollett, in current year, paid his criminal accomplices with a check in his own goddamn name. You'd think someone who has pretended to be a criminal on TV for so many years, you'd think they'd be smarter at being a crook by now, but no. And according to this other article I found, Jussie paid these Nigerians by check, thus proving he's probably the dumbest crook we've all ever seen. But back to the police report in the New York Times piece. Jussie was upset about his salary? This guy has got to be making bank starring in a primetime drama like Empire. And according to the internet, Smollett is worth a respectable $500,000. Definitely less than I would have thought, but also nothing to scoff at either. Jussie also makes $20,000 per episode for Empire, which garners him about $360,000 a year currently. Well, at least it did until this stunt and arrest. Jussie will likely be completely kicked off the show soon, and we'll get more details on that part of the story later. But back to the money, well, I think most Americans would say making $360K a year is pretty freaking awesome. I will again admit it's much less than I thought an actor like this would get, and it does seem on the lower end for TV show salaries, but let's also be fair here. Jussie is not very famous. He doesn't draw many viewers himself, and his acting is just okay at best. Realistically, Jussie is still getting more than he deserves even, but once you become a douchebag Hollywood liberal, it's really never enough for them. Why would anyone, especially an African-American man, use the symbolism of a noose to make false accusations, he asked. How could someone look at the hatred and suffering associated with that symbol and see an opportunity to manipulate that symbol to further his own public profile? A representative for Mr. Smollett did not immediately respond to a request for comment Thursday. The actor has maintained that he did nothing wrong. Well, I'm really happy to hear the police clapping back this hard on Jussie. They are doing God's work slamming him because he did waste the police time and resources, thus endangering other people in the area. Tying up the police with frivolous cases and bogus accusations, made up attacks for PR, well, that takes the police's time away from handling their actual business, the time they need to patrol and stop crimes and catch crooks and murderers. The attack was reported to have occurred January 29th. Mr. Smollett, who is black and openly gay, told the police that at roughly 2 a.m., two masked men attacked him on the 300 block of East Lower North Water Street in downtown Chicago. He said his assailants directed homophobic and racial slurs at him, put a rope around his neck, and poured a chemical substance on him. Mr. Smollett said the assault occurred after he went to Subway to pick up food. When the police arrived at Mr. Smollett's apartment, he was still wearing the rope. Man, I swear, this original story sounds more and more fake every time we hear it. Why would Jussie continue to wear the rope around his neck while he waited for the cops to show up? Absolutely absurd. And the other thing I never got about this was, it always seemed like the attackers in the story knew who Jussie was from TV. And the idea that white Trump supporters watch Empire so much they're recognizing the actors on the street is super ridiculous. Obviously, they wouldn't even watch an all-black TV show if they were the actual racists they're being portrayed as. On February 13th, the police detained Alabinjo and Abimboli Asundaro, I can't do these names, 2 Nigerians, 2 brothers and associates of Mr. Smollett's, believing them to be the men in their images. Their home was raided by law enforcement. Through their lawyer, the brothers initially said they didn't know why they were of interest to the police, but investigators changed their status from person of interest to potential suspects publicly. But the story took another twist. The brothers told the police that they had been paid by Mr. Smollett to stage the attack, and detectives released them without charges. Whoa, those guys turned on Jussie pretty quick. As they should. Why the hell would Nigerians go down for some gay American making shit up about hate crimes anyway? Jussie is getting what he deserves. Clearly, Jussie's getting justice. This is what happens when you mess with the law like this. We will still have to wait and see if he's actually punished though. I could just as easy see Jussie claiming depression or insanity sometime soon here, saying he has mental issues, and then the media will give him a victim card once again. The other thing I wonder about this is, why hasn't Jussie been fired from Empire yet? Other actors have been canned for much less than faking a hate crime and getting arrested. Roseanne, of course, comes to mind here. She had one bad joke on Twitter which many misconstrued as racist, and boom, ABC fired her the next day without question. They even canceled Roseanne's whole show and then spun it off into another version without her. Pretty brutal, and for what? Rosie didn't commit a crime or anything wrong at all. She didn't even say something that was obviously racist or offensive. She was accidentally offensive and misconstrued. But even if you give the left that and say the tweet was racist, should Roseanne have been fired for an edgy joke like this? No, of course not. But Jussie, on the other hand, he has been suspiciously left on the payroll of the Empire show as of now. I predict he may be cut from it soon though, but for now, the producer's silence on this issue is deafening. There have been some reports that Jussie's scenes were getting cut or shortened though, but the longer Empire waits to fully fire the guy, the more and more the hypocrisy of all this shows. For more details on Jussie's future on TV, let's turn to an article from EW called "Losing an Heir? What Jussie Smollett's Possible Exit Could Mean for Empire." Check this out. Let's get this straight. I'm in it with Jamal for the long run. That is what Jussie Smollett, who has played Jamal Lyon on Empire since the beginning, told EW ahead of last fall's season 5 premiere. That feels like years ago, as Smollett is suddenly embroiled in one of Hollywood's strangest and surprising controversies. On Thursday, the 36-year-old turned himself into police on a felony charge of filing a false police report, with Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson saying that after being dissatisfied with his Empire salary, Smollett orchestrated the racial and homophobic attack against himself. With a criminal case and jail time staring him in the face, Smollett has bigger concerns, but despite Fox previously backing him, it has to be likely that he could soon be on his way out of the show that launched him into TV stardom. EW previously confirmed that scenes centered on Smollett had been reduced and rewritten, while Fox and 20th Century Fox's television statement says, "We understand the seriousness of this matter and we respect the legal process. We are evaluating the situation and we are considering our options." Yeah, better start weighing those options pretty quick, Fox, although I do respect them for being patient and mindful to the judicial system. Regardless, it's still seeming more and more clear that Jussie is a liar, and he's an anti-white racist too, who misused police resources in order to manipulate the public to gain attention, and of course, some money. More money. He's already rich, but it's never enough. And I will again give Fox credit here though. They're not pulling an ABC and firing someone quickly for no good reason. Fox is being more reasonable and tempered in the response, sure, and I'm pretty confident once Jussie gets convicted and jailed and whatnot, Fox will of course eventually let him go. Empire was built around established stars Terrence Howard and Taraji P. Henson, but Smollett and Jamal have always been the heart of the series. Co-creator Lee Daniels pulled from his own childhood experiences for the gay middle son of the Lion music dynasty, including for a disturbing season 1 scene of a young Jamal being put in a trash can by his father after wearing women's clothes. Jamal's storylines have often been viewed as a high point on the series, and continue to break new ground this season with Jamal being in a relationship with an HIV-positive man. Wow, that show sounds pretty gay to me. Glad I never watched Empire. And I'm starting to see Jussie may have been a little jealous of his bigger and better paid co-stars. Terrence Howard and Taraji Henson deserve more money though, because of course, they're international big league superstars who've starred in movies and stuff. Jussie's not even the star of his hometown, let alone this TV show. So I think we can make a few conclusions from this and then some fairly accurate inferences. First, Jussie clearly wanted more money for working on Empire, and I would guess that's because he saw the other stars there were getting more, while he was also getting more noticed on the show. As Jussie's part grew, so did his ego and his greed. But instead of being happy to be a part of something special like a big hit TV show, which was already paying Jussie a lot of money, well, Smollett went greedy and stupid, and that's what brought us here to this arrest, now, this week. In the end, Jussie could lose it all over this. He's certainly not going to be getting any big acting offers anytime soon. Perhaps he could mount a comeback one day, but I would never support it. Smollett has shown his true colors, and they're really not that pretty. He's a petty, race-baiting liar fighter and a hustler, and not a good hustler like that movie Hustle and Flow, which is what the Empire show is kind of ripped off from. No, Jussie is not a cool, smooth hustler who is making money in business legitimately. Mostly. Not at all. Jussie is a terrible race hustler who was attempting to make money by turning blacks and whites against each other. Fortunately, that didn't work out, and Jussie is going to be losing money and his whole career, as he should. And I also hope this actually brings all of us together. Instead of being divided and pitted against each other, like what Jussie hoped for, we can now all unite together and stand up against this race-baiting nonsense. What do you guys think? Will Jussie serve some real jail time for this? Should Empire have fired him already? And what do you think about the recent wave of hate crime hoaxes in America? Will this new arrest perhaps stop others from making more shit up like this in the future? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see y'all next time.